So I asked a man named Joe to make a video response to 5 questions. And let me just play this real quick clip from it.
And I can talk about it as such because I am a student of that particular science. I went to school and graduated my degree in adult abnormal human psychology, University of Texas, 1996.
So he's graduated with a degree in psychology. And so the questions are: 1, what do you think of psychiatry? 2, what do you think of covert experimentation and covert harassment, drugging, stalking? 3, do you believe that I am targeted? 4, who do you think is behind it? And 5, why do you think people do not believe it? Now, to show you that this is for me, let me just play one last clip and I'll wrap it up and let him talk. I'm probably going to break this up into several videos because there's like a half an hour plus of responses.
My name is James Jackson, also for a particular channel called Amica.
So that you can see it's for me. Thank you. I'm going to start with the first 2 or 3 questions.
The first question: what do you think of psychiatry? Well, psychiatry to me is kind of a pseudoscience. It's not really based in any kind of fact, simply because we don't know what the brain really is. We don't know how it works. We don't know anything about the brain. We really don't know. We know things, for example, the hypothalamus regulates appetite. We know that it's electrical in nature, that there are synapses, that there is, GABA, norepinephrine, serotonin, these different chemicals that are going on in the brain, and that they have to be regulated, and usually are regulated in quote-unquote normal brainwave activity. But if not, then that's where the Prozacs and the Xanaxes and the Wellbutrins and those medications come into play to kind of regulate the chemical imbalances in people's brains, which cause the depressive disorders, the anxiety disorders, and in some cases even the schizophrenias, whether it's catatonic schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia, what have you. It just is all a result of a chemical imbalance in the brain, and is one of 2 ways it's caused, according to the theory. Either it's learned or it's genetic. Schizophrenias are more often than not determined to be a genetic defect, whereas the anxiety disorders, panic disorders, post-traumatic stress, example, or anxiety disorder, panic attacks, depression, major depression, clinical depression, things like that are learned. So there's a traumatic event or a series of traumatic events and things that occurred that cause a person to go under some sort of trauma, which cause the depression, which cause the anxiety, which cause the panic attacks. And then once you have the first panic attack, you start having numerous ones because that's the reason why it's called a panic attack. So terrifying that the person doesn't know how to react to what just happened. They're afraid it's going to happen again, and as a result, it becomes an actual condition. Psychiatry is kind of the same thing as a religion. Psychiatry is basically a religion. It's only true if you believe in it. It is a religion, just like the theory of evolution is a religion, and Christianity is a religion. And it's a religion. You either believe in it or you don't believe in it, but there's really no way to prove that any of that stuff is actually true. You just have to believe that it is. There's no really way to prove that Jesus really exists. You have to just believe or you don't believe. There's no really way to prove that we came from basically a rock. There's really no scientific proof of any of that because we can't duplicate it. And what we know is, as a science, as I'm a student of the natural sciences, unless we can actually do it ourselves, we can't say that it actually exists. And any scientist will tell you that. Unless we can duplicate it, and we have duplicated it, we cannot say that it is real, because we can't do it. It's only a theory. It's a hypothesis. So regarding psychiatry, it's a religious system. Again, it's either you choose to believe in it or not believe in it. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in psychiatry. Psychiatry is a real easy way to take sane people and call them insane. It's a real easy way to get people institutionalized that don't belong there. I suggest watching a show by Angelina Jolie called Changeling. It's a very good show, and it's bears testimony. It's based on a true story. It's based on fact. of a situation that really happened where a sane woman was locked up in a nut house, okay, because of politics. And it had nothing to do with her mental status. She was absolutely sane. It's just that they were trying to cover up conspiracies, and it is a true story. It's a true story. It's not a Hollywood fiction. It's a true fucking story. Excuse me, pardon my language. It's Changeling, starring Angelina Jolie. Look into that. You'll see some very disturbing things about how psychology and psychiatry could be used to manipulate the masses, and also be used to basically incarcerate human beings that don't have anything wrong with them. And how can also be used to exonerate murderers that have deep pockets and can be able to get out because they were never convicted in the first place, because they were not mentally fit to stand trial. So I personally don't believe in it, and I can talk about it as such because I am a student of that particular science. I went to school and graduated my degree in adult abnormal human psychology, University of Texas, in 1996. So I was just 2 years away from finishing school to where I could actually be called doctor. Can you believe that? Dr. Gucci Joe? I'm not kidding. Yeah, really. I was only 2 years away. 2 years, 30 semester hours away from having a plaque on my wall being called doctor. Scary, isn't it? But true. So I don't believe in psychiatry. It is a flawed science. And more often than not, it only hurts. It doesn't help. What do I think of covert experimentation? In some sense, I can see where it is practical. There are some experiments that need to be done, and they have to be done in a covert fashion because, quite frankly, if the public were to know about some of these experiments, they're kind of ghastly, particularly ghastly. We wouldn't have a lot of cures for things that we have cures for now without those ghastly experiments. However, there are other experiments, like the experiments that were done by Joseph Mengele, and we call it about the operation there, Project Paperclip, that happened in Canada regarding the German scientists that we apprehended after World War II and sent them to go work for us and began the MK Ultra project in Canada. Canadian government found out about it and told them, get these guys out of here. We're going to arrest all of you because we don't want this kind of stuff being done on our soil. And so they maintain these clandestine operations today, which leads to the current MK Ultra monarch programming, kitty cat programming, and things like that are going on to this day. They still do these experiments to this day. And they're using humans, American citizens out there in the streets. That's what gang stalking is. It's a human experiment. That's exactly what it is. Gang stalking is that. It's a number of things, but that's one of them. So I don't believe in any type of covert or clandestine activities that are involving human beings. So as far as experimentation is concerned, if it's going to be on an animal or stem cell research or things of that nature, maybe something that's deceased, that's one thing. But to be doing that on live human subjects, especially out there in the field, we're doing experiments on people, that's just an abominable activity and shameful. And no, I don't believe in that whatsoever. I think it's wrong. Whenever possible, something can be wrong. I don't believe in that at all. And it does exist. It does happen every day. Covert harassment, drugging, and stalking. That happens a lot. I'm not going to say too much about it because when you do the things that I've done in my lifetime, you have to take oaths. I guess some 40 and 50-year oaths, literally 40-year oaths, 50-year oaths, meaning I can't talk about the things that I did in those days when I was working with the U.S. government, and I did once upon a time used to work with the U.S. government. I got involved with those guys back in 1993. I think I can talk about this. I was never told I couldn't. There was a situation between myself and a woman that I was dating at that time. I just graduated high school, and this was in Texas. And there's some, I'm not going to talk about it, but let me just, there was pedophilia activity going on with a truck stop in Texas. a lot of other illegal activity, but the bad part was the pedophilia that was going on. Okay, there were 15-year-old kids being raped. Okay, by truck drivers. The truck stop in Texas. Okay, I was 19 years old at that time. The United States government approached me and asked me if I would be one of the non-operational covers to get in there and infiltrate, because I used to know the people that were working and running that particular truck stop, because I used to get my marijuana from them. I used to smoke marijuana in those days, right? And so I went in there, I infiltrated, and I had primitive bugs, microphones and stuff like that, and did some clandestine work for these U.S. government, and they came in and busted these people, and they had child porn and a bunch of other things that were illegal, and they served some serious time, and one guy actually committed suicide before they could get to him. That's how my career with the United States government began. It was something like that in 1993. And so, you ever try to get out of that program or anything, they're going to stalk you until you kill yourself, or they were going to kill you themselves. And so that is an actual fact. So the covert harassment, the drugging, the stalking, that is true. That is absolutely true. But the drugging happens every day. When you look up in the sky and you see this cloud going behind an airplane, that's not normal. Okay, what do you think that is? That's poison. Okay, I know that because a buddy of mine with the United States Army was the one that disclosed that information to me back in 1995. They've been doing it that long. He said that those are used in some cases to try to manipulate the weather. Whenever there's drought, they fly those planes and try to manipulate the weather to try to create a storm out of nothing. But he did say that there's poisons, and that because of gravity, the gravitational pull, it's going to pull this chemicals down to the ground. Also because of Monsanto, the GMOs, genetically modified, right? Your produce, your tomatoes, your apples, your bananas, man, they got poisons all up in them. And then also they want to make larger bananas, larger tomatoes, larger oranges, larger apples, larger strawberries. And so they put, those are drugs in there. That's not natural. Okay, it's not natural. And you wind up having a big orange or a big tomato and it doesn't really have a taste to it. There's no taste. And that's chemicals. You're eating produce that has chemicals in them, and they're going to Agenda 21, Codex Alimentaris, and all that stuff like that. I'm not going to get into conspiracy theories and bust out the tin hat or anything like that. I'm simply going to say, yeah, you're being poisoned. Okay. Jack LaLanne said it best. Jack LaLanne, the late Jack LaLanne. If God didn't make it, don't eat it. That's what he said. He said, if man made it, don't eat it. So there you go, you may want to lay back, you may want to avoid the TV dinners. And then not too long ago, Subway just got busted using the same chemical that's used to make yoga mats to make their bread. And they outlawed that. And just look at the European Union. The European Union has banned Monsanto, banned genetically modified foods over there in Europe, but we have them here. So there is covert poisoning, but it's happening to everybody. Every time you go to McDonald's or Burger King, you're being poisoned. The malt liquor, it's in black communities or Latino communities. It's in poor communities, regardless of race, creed, or color, right? Well, that malt liquor has a high volume of poison in it. That's why alcohol does not have a list of ingredients. They're poisoning you with that shit. Really. There's, I forgot what the poison is called, but it makes you psychotic over time. Malt liquor does. Malt liquor. And it's the same ingredient in wine also. So a lot of American wines have the same poison inside of them. And because the FDA does not mandate that American alcohol or any alcohol that we consume, that Americans consume, have a list of ingredients, you don't really know what you're drinking. That's dangerous. So there's drugging going on all the time. As far as stalking, of course there's stalking. Jodie Foster was being stalked. John Lennon was being stalked before he got shot. I think Jodie Foster was being stalked by the guy who eventually shot Reagan, right? Ronald Reagan. Stalking happens all the time, and it always will happen. There's always going to be weirdos out there that just want to stalk other people. But there's also something more sinister that's organized stalking. And the organized stalking has been going on for a long time. It's been going on since the days of Jesus Christ. You know, Jesus Christ was being stalked by the Jews. Okay, eventually they were able to get Judas Iscariot to stab Jesus Christ in the back, you know. So these kids, you even look in Shakespeare, was it Hamlet? He says, "Et tu, Brute," you know. Here's Shakespeare writing about conspiracies. He wasn't wearing a tinfoil hat, was he? Okay, Shakespeare knew about this stuff way back in those days. And this has been going on for a long time. You know, if you're going to be a part of something that maybe, you know, you're a Democrat in a Republican state, and you're going to be pursued, or maybe you're a Republican in a Democrat state, yeah, people are going to come after you. There's two things we don't talk about in American culture, right? We don't talk about it at the dinner table. We don't talk about politics and religion. Why? Because there's usually going to be a fist fight. Okay, people take that stuff that personally. So, of course, there's going to be stalking, and there's going to be harassment, and there's going to be poisonings and things like that occur. And that's common sense. Absolutely. Absolutely. Look at the date rape drug. How is someone going to get date raped unless they were poisoned? Huh? Okay, do you really think that just happens in clubs? It happens everywhere. It happens everywhere. Mitt Romney, he didn't necessarily get poisoned, but he got spied on. He was talking about the 47% that were going to vote for Barack Obama regardless. That happened in the year 2012, right? And he lost the election because of that video. Okay, that was a Latino American. That was a Mexican guy that planted the cell phone there and put his camera right there to capture Mitt Romney saying that. Then he sold the video to MSNBC, and it went viral. Okay, so there are conspiracies, there's harassment, there's stalking, there's all that stuff going on every day in the good old USA, and in fact it's going on everywhere in the world. This is real. It's been real. It was real way a good 2,000 years before America was even created. And 2,000 years after America has been decimated and doesn't exist anymore, it's still going to be going on. There's been stalking and harassment and people getting poisoned since the beginning of life on Earth, and it was going to be that way forever. So that is no conspiracy. That's just the way it is, man. Do you believe that I'm targeted? James is asking me this. Do I believe you're targeted? Yes. Yes, I do. We live in a civilization in the United States of America where the politicians, the bankers, you know, the real movers and shakers of this particular nation, they don't like free thinkers. They want obedient workers. They want obedient servants. They want people that are going to show up to work at 8 a.m., do their job, whatever it may be, get off work at 5, you know, go home, wash, rinse, repeat. They don't want free thinkers, okay? The free thinkers are already on their payroll. The free thinkers are their brothers or sisters or sons or daughters or nieces and nephews. They don't want any more thinkers. They don't want the American people to think. It does not benefit them. It does not benefit their diversified portfolio. It does not benefit them to have people that are not on their payroll that can think. It does not benefit them. In fact, they consider it to be dangerous. They want obedient workers, obedient servants. They don't want people questioning their authority. Okay? So guys like me or James or you watching this right now, you questioning things, you're questioning vaccines, you're questioning, did Sandy Hook really happen? You're questioning, did the JFK assassination go down the way that people say it went down, or is there something else there that people aren't really talking about? Did 9/11, did that really happen with 19 Saudi nationals, or was that an inside job? You know, see, they don't want you questioning that kind of stuff. That is not in their best interest. They don't want you doing that. They don't want you doing that, me doing that, nobody doing that. So if you start to do that, get ready to be put on a list, okay? They put people on the list. You're put on the list all the time. How do you think that you get on the mailing list? Back in the old days when there used to be telemarketing phone calls, what do you think that was about? How'd you get on that list? You say, take me off the list. What list? How'd you get on the list in the first place? You ever asked yourself that? Come on. How'd you get on the list? For someone to call you telemarketing, ask you if you want some accidental death and dismemberment insurance, or if you want to change your phone to AT&T or MCI or Sprint or GTE. Okay, back when telemarketing used to be a real big thing before the internet exploded. How'd you get on those lists? See? Don't know, do you? These people, they make lists. They make lists. It's what they do. They're paranoid people, okay? The ruling elite are paranoid people because they know it was not easy for them to get where they're at. It was not easy to make $1 billion or so. Every one of us would be billionaires, okay? It was a very difficult process for them to make that kind of money, and they're not ready to lose it, and they're going to pay whatever kind of money they need to make sure that they don't. And when you run around and you start running your yap, I started talking about 9/11, and the Twin Towers are airtight, that Larry Silverstein had never taken asbestos out of the girders, and that he was going to be charged millions and millions of dollars by the U.S. government because they were tired of him giving them the runaround. If we started talking about the fact that they were Mossad agents, they were jumping for joy. They were arrested by the New York Police Department. They were actually arrested almost at ground zero because they were jumping and cheering and laughing, watching the towers go down. If he starts talking about that kind of stuff, he starts talking about the fact that Larry Silverstein filed 2 separate claims because 2 different planes hit his Twin Towers so that he could double the amount of money he was going to get from the insurance. You start talking about that stuff. You start talking about Zapata drilling and the fact that JFK did not allow America or the Bush family through Zapata drilling to go drill in Cuba, which is what the Bush family wanted to do. Prescott Bush's son, George Herbert Walker Bush, right? The son of George Jr., or the dad of George Jr., right? George Herbert Walker Bush owns Zapata Drilling, and he lost millions, almost $1 billion on the project because he was getting ready to drill the hell out of Cuba and get all that oil, but it wasn't going to happen because the Bay of Pigs incident and a bunch of other things happened. Operation Northwoods didn't go through like it was supposed to. Operation Northwoods been declassified, so you can look it up and see exactly what they have going there regarding false flag attacks. And so what they're doing in retaliation, they shot JFK in the head. Also, you know, this is just goes on and on and on. You start talking about these truths, start talking about this stuff that John F. Kennedy came out with an interest-free cash that was being printed by the Treasury Department. It was not being printed by the Federal Reserve or anything of that nature. It was being printed by the government for use of the American citizens, and they did not bear any interest. Oh yeah, you start talking about that stuff, you're gonna get put on a list real fucking quick. They don't want people talking about stuff like that. They don't want anyone talking about those kinds of things. They don't want people that are capable of critical thought. And if you are capable of critical thought, you're going to go on a list of people that they don't like, and they don't want you to flourish in any way possible because they don't want you influencing other human beings to start thinking. So absolutely, I believe you're targeted because you're an intelligent human being, and all the people that I speak to regarding this particular channel are intelligent. We're intelligent, and because we're intelligent, you know, it's a phrase I have. I think, therefore I'm dangerous, as far as the state is concerned, okay? We're capable of intelligent thought, therefore we're dangerous, as far as they're concerned, because they don't want intelligent people. They want idiots. They want morons. They want schmucks. They want people who are just smart enough to clock in and clock out and do the books, but dumb enough to not care about what's going on in the world around them. Okay? Next. Who do you think is behind it? Well, that's easy. It's the Jews. that's the Jews. The reason being is because they only make up about 15 million. There's only about 15 million, maybe between 15 and 16 million of them on the earth. That's it. That's all that's left, man. Their number's been dwindling every single year. And they only make up 0.4% of the American population. Something to think about there. Why did they run everything in America? They bribed their way to the top. They print our money through the Federal Reserve. They run all the banks. They run all the major newspapers. They own all 6 studios in Hollywood. They own all 6 agencies. Anything and everything that has any kind of value in America, they either own it or run it. And so you go against their system because they're outnumbered by the remaining 99.4% of the American population that are the Gentile. They're terrified very, very easily. So you, Mr. Jackson, or anyone else, myself, anybody that questions their authority or questions anything, being a critical thinker, want to question to say, hey, you know what, that JFK assassination seems kind of fishy. You know, did Marilyn Monroe really overdose, or was she killed? How about Kurt Cobain? How about Michael Jackson? I mean, these people really just OD, or were they killed? You start asking questions like that, they're going to come after you. because we are the majority and they're the big time minority. Okay, you got 99.4% of the population of America up against the 0.6%, not even 1%, man. It's the Jews, and they use Zionism, and they use Zionism to pose as Jews when Zionism has nothing to do with Judaism whatsoever. It has nothing to do with Jewry. Zionism is a political movement. It's almost a religion. And the Zionism is where they're using Freemasonry. They use the so-called Illuminati and all these other idiots to try to create this system to keep you incarcerated, economically incarcerated, psychosomatically incarcerated, socially, culturally incarcerated. And if you go against their grain of thinking, they use Homeland Security or the Defense Department or the FBI, a combination of those three elements, to be able to gang stalk you, harass you, have a train honk while you're trying to talk. All those things to try to, and that actually adds validity to what I'm trying to point out to you right now. The fact that that idiot is doing that. It's pointing out the truth that this is real. The thing is, though, you can take comfort in knowing that every civilization that's tried to do this is dead. The Nazi Germany was the last civilization to try this as far as a Western civilization, and they're extinct now. Nazis are extinct. They were annihilated. And they were fucking destroyed. And they were, if you can, I would look up Naomi Wolf. Look up Naomi Wolf. I think it's called The End of America. I believe is the name of her show that she has, and it's really brilliant. And it shows how our country is turning into a despotism, and how, in fact, it really already has. And all of the same tactics that were used by Nazi Germany to turn Nazi Germany into what it was, a fascism, is exactly the same tactics Barack Obama is using today. And Bush was using it before him, Clinton before him, and then Bush Jr., Bush Sr. before him. All the presidents are in on it, man. You can't be president of the United States unless you're willing to be in on the Zionist movement. But to break it all down, it all comes down to Judaism. It all comes down to the Zionist Judaism movement. And it's not all the Jews, okay? There's a lot of peaceful Jews out there, a lot of Jews that want to peacefully coexist with everybody else. It's this Jewish Zionist movement. It's called Rothschild Zionism. They're the ones behind it. Those are the ones behind it. And the U.S. government are just puppets. They're just lackeys. They're just fucking bishops and rooks and knights and pawns on the chessboard of life. That's all they are. But the guy moving the guy moving all the pieces is a fucking Jew. The yarmulke wearing fucking Zionist. They're the ones behind it. Those are the ones behind it. I already told you why. Because you're capable of intelligent, critical thought, and that frightens them. Okay, Hitler was not supposed to be Hitler. Napoleon was not supposed to be Napoleon. Okay, they didn't graduate from fucking West Point. They didn't come from a family of billionaires. Okay, they were not supposed to be who they wound up being. Okay, people, these guys became tyrants and basically kind of like lunatics and radicals. But the fact of the matter is, they were really fucking brilliant. They were really brilliant in the way that they assessed themselves, the way they assessed what they perceived to be threats. And they were able to take, for example, in the case of Adolf Hitler, he was able to take a broken and dispirited nation from the ashes of the Versailles Treaty and turn them into a military juggernaut that was only a couple of moves away from taking over the whole world. The campaign in North Africa and then also the invasion through Siberia was two foolish mistakes by Germany that cost them the entire war. They would not make those two mistakes, we'd all be speaking German right now. I don't look up to Hitler or anything like that. I'm simply pointing out that the guy was pretty fucking smart, okay? And he was able to think outside the box, so to speak, and he saw what he was able to do with minimal resources. He was able to do some amazing things. And to top it off, did you know that the Jews were the ones that funded him? He was funded by the Jews. You know what Holocaust means? Holocaust means, as far for the Jews, Holocaust, when you say Holocaust from one Jew to the next, that means a sacrifice. Holocaust means blood sacrifice. So when you say the Holocaust, that means that those Jews were sacrificed by Zionists. The rich Jews sacrificed the poor Jews. That's why they call it the Holocaust. The rich Jews sacrificed the poor Jews in Germany. Okay? And you can do your own research on that, find out to be true. Standard Oil, which is now known as British Petroleum, BP, Standard Oil was owned by the Rockefeller family. The Rockefeller family had a patent on an additive that was necessary for the Nazis to be able to fly their jets. The first jets to ever be created, the 232s, they were created by Adolf Hitler and by Germany, Nazi Germany. But in order for those jets to be able to fly, they had to have an additive that was created by Standard Oil and patented by Standard Oil. Well, Standard Oil was an American company, and we were at war with Germany. So how the hell did Adolf Hitler get a hold of the Standard Oil's additive, patented additive, so that they could be able to fly their jets to bomb the shit out of us and shoot down our planes? Because Rockefeller's a Jew, and the Rockefeller family was funding both sides of that war. And if you don't believe me, just look up Trading with the Enemy Act. Prescott Bush, George Herbert Walker Bush's dad, George W.'s and Jeb Bush's grandpa. He was actually charged and convicted of trading with the enemy. Nazi Germany, he got busted, Trading with the Enemy Act. Why do you think people not believe it? People don't want to believe things they're scared of.
Part 3.
Why do you think people not believe it? People don't want to believe things they're scared of. And also, a lot of people are being paid to say it's bullshit. That's what the entire media machine is about. People don't want to believe something that they can't control. So it's not so much they don't believe it that they're living in denial. They don't want to believe it. Not so much that they don't believe it, they just don't want to believe it. Because if they start to have to believe it, then it causes trauma to them because they don't have an answer on how to solve it. So it's not so much that, like I said, it's not so much that they don't believe it, it's just they don't want to believe it. And then you have others, you naysayers, that don't believe it because they're paid not to believe it. They're paid to be shills, they're paid to be trolls, they're paid, they're bribed, they're threatened into lying, even under oath. They do it all the time, man. They do it every day. Lying under oath, perjury, and all these things that people don't want to believe it because what's in it for them? How are they going to benefit? You're going to buy them a Maserati? You're going to buy them a Bentley like the Jews are doing? You know, you're going to give them a vacation to the Caribbean? So you're not going to provide any of the things that the Jews can provide to them, so of course they're not going to believe your story. But in fact, they do believe your story. They're just not going to say that they do. Well, the whole point of me doing this on Guru Chilla Joe is to batter people, traumatize people, terrorize people into believing that these things are facts, acknowledging that they're facts, and acknowledging the fact that you better be scared of me more than you're scared of your Jewish taskmasters, because those guys ain't nothing compared to what I can do to you. That's the point I'm trying to make, because they're only 0.6% of 1% of the population, while I am part of the 99.4% of the population that are Gentile. We're not Jewish. Yeah, my mom was an Ashkenazi Jew. I don't claim it. I don't claim it. It's disgraceful to me because of what these people do. I don't claim it. My mother doesn't claim it. We don't claim it. We don't claim it. But yeah, she's originally, my grandfather's from Germany. My great-grandfather, born and raised in Germany, blonde-haired, blue-eyed man. So, Otto. His name's Otto, O-T-T-O, yeah.
So there you have a Jew speaking on the Jews for the record. I also quickly want to say that I pretty much agree with everything he says, except for the chemtrails. I don't know what to think about it. And that's my official stance on this stuff so far.
My grandfather's name's Ernest, and then my great-grandfather's Otto. My great-great-grandfather's name is Hugo, H-U-G-O. Straight Germans, man. Straight up. And so, it's not so much they don't believe it, they don't want to believe it, or they've been paid to tell you they don't believe it. But everybody knows this shit's happening, they just don't want to believe it. They're scared. Or they've been bribed. One or two. And that's really about it. If you have any more questions, or anyone else has any questions regarding any of this kind of stuff, or anything really, particularly around these kinds of things, you know, ask me, and I'll answer them. You know, I have a lot of information in this head, man. And so, you want to know something about something, just ask me. It's a religion. You either believe in it or you don't believe in it, but there's really no way to prove that any of that stuff is actually true. You just have to believe that it is. There's no really way to prove that Jesus really exists. You have to just believe or you don't believe. There's no really way to prove that we came from basically a rock. There's really no scientific proof of any of that because we can't duplicate it. And what we know is as a science, as a student of the natural sciences, unless we can prove Unless we can actually do it ourselves, we can't say that it actually exists. And any scientist will tell you that. Unless we can duplicate it, and we have duplicated it, we cannot say that it is real. Because we can't do it. It's only a theory. It's a hypothesis. So regarding psychiatry, it's a religious system. Again, it's either you choose to believe in it or not believe in it. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in psychiatry. Psychiatry is a real easy way to take sane people and call them insane. It's a real easy way to get people institutionalized that don't belong there. I suggest watching a show by Angelina Jolie called Changeling. First question: what do you think of psychiatry? Well, psychiatry to me is kind of a pseudoscience. It's not really based in any kind of fact. Simply because we don't know what the brain really is. We don't know how it works. We don't know anything about the brain. We really don't know. We know things, for example, the hypothalamus regulates appetite. We know that it's electrical in nature, that there are synapses, that there is, GABA, norepinephrine, serotonin, these different chemicals that are going on in the brain, and that they have to be regulated, and usually are regulated in quote-unquote normal brainwave activity. But if not, then that's where the Prozacs and the Xanaxes and the Wellbutrins and those medications come into play to kind of regulate the chemical imbalances in people's brains, which cause the depressive disorders, anxiety disorders, and in some cases even the schizophrenia. Changeling, it's a very good show, and it's bears testimony. It's based on a true story. It's based on fact. This is a situation that really happened where a sane woman was locked up in a nut house, okay, because of politics. And it had nothing to do with her mental status. She was absolutely sane. It's just that they were trying to cover up conspiracies, and it is a true story. It's a true story. It's not a Hollywood fiction. It's a true fucking story. Excuse me, pardon my language. It's Changeling, starring Angelina Jolie. Look into that and see some very disturbing things about how psychology and psychiatry could be used to manipulate the masses, and also be used to basically incarcerate human beings that don't have anything wrong with them. And how can also be used to exonerate murderers that have deep pockets and can be able to get out because they were never convicted in the first place, because they were not mentally fit to stand trial. So I personally don't believe in it, and I can talk about it as such because I am a student of that particular science. I went to school and graduated my degree in.
So I asked a man named Joe to make a video response to 5 questions. And let me just play this real quick clip from it.
And I can talk about it as such because I am a student of that particular science. I went to school and graduated my degree in adult abnormal human psychology, University of Texas, 1996.
So he's graduated with a degree in psychology. And so the questions are: 1, what do you think of psychiatry? 2, what do you think of covert experimentation and covert harassment, drugging, stalking? 3, do you believe that I am targeted? 4, who do you think is behind it? And 5, why do you think people do not believe it? Now, to show you that this is for me, let me just play one last clip and I'll wrap it up and let him talk. I'm probably going to break this up into several videos because there's like a half an hour plus of responses.
My name is James Jackson, also for a particular channel called Amica.
So that you can see it's for me. Thank you. I'm going to start with the first 2 or 3 questions.
The first is, whether it's catatonic schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia, what have you, that it just is all a result of a chemical imbalance in the brain, and is one of 2 ways it's caused, according to the theory. Either it's learned or it's genetic. Schizophrenias are more often than not determined to be a genetic defect. Whereas anxiety disorders, panic disorders, post-traumatic stress, example, anxiety disorder, panic attacks, depression, major depression, clinical depression, things like that are learned as there's a traumatic event or a series of traumatic events and things that occurred that cause a person to go under some sort of trauma, which causes depression, which causes anxiety, which causes panic attacks. And then once you have the first panic attack, you start having numerous ones because it's the reason why it's called a panic attack. So terrifying that the person doesn't know how to react to what just happened. They're afraid it's going to happen again, and as a result, it becomes an actual condition. Psychiatry is kind of the same thing as a religion. Psychiatry is really basically a religion. It's only true if you believe in it. It is a religion, just like the theory of evolution is a religion, and Christianity is a religion, and